Hello, and welcome to another low budget production. So, this is a talk that I gave at my high school. Oh, my name is Chris DeHaas. It's a talk I gave at my high school about my engineering career of the last 40 years and 10 or so jobs. And I wanted to do a video of this just because I thought it was a fun presentation and thought you might enjoy this. And I do talk a lot about electronics and engineering, but I also talk a lot about music because my background's involved music as well as electronics. So, without any further ado, what is engineering? Well, in my opinion, it's problem solving. Actually, I won't read all these, but I do want to read two quotes. One from Elon Musk: "Engineering is the closest thing to magic that exists in the world," which I thought was a really cool quote. And another, probably one of my favorite, is "Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic." And hence, that's why I had the little magic wand on the first slide here. So, moving on. So, my education, what education does it take for an engineering degree? It's a lot of math, a lot of physics, sometimes more physics, chemistry, and then specialized areas of study. One of my specializations was embedded systems, and I'll talk about more of that later. So this is where it started, was high school, and I threw this slide in here just because our 40-year reunion came up, and I thought this was a fun slide to put together. So I graduated from high school in 1981. That photo on the left is my class yearbook photo. Photo on the right, our 40-year reunion. A lot of fun, really great times. So I put this slide in since I gave this talk at my high school. So in high school, I was into music a lot. These were two school papers. I play guitar and bass. So on the left is my freshman year. I was playing Freebird. And on the right was another band. We played Roundabout by Yes. So music's always been a big part of my life. And so that theme will kind of run through this whole talk. So college, I went to college from 1981 to 1987. I went to a community college in Ohio here, Lakeland Community College, and got a associate's degree in electronics. And I went to Case Western Reserve, graduated in 1987 with a bachelor degree in electrical engineering. And my senior project was a programmable drum machine. So I did a project involving a musical item. So that was really fun. Then at the end of my college career, I, instead of getting a job right away in engineering, I auditioned, got a job at Busch Gardens playing in a country show. That's the photo of our band on the left. I am the second one from the left. And then, and we played a country show there. It was a really great summer in Williamsburg, Virginia, and went to Virginia Beach a lot. I'm going to adjust this just so, yeah, that's much better. Okay. And then rode roller coasters a lot, so that's a Loch Ness Monster in Virginia Beach. Then, let's see. Oh, very important. While I was there, I met Victor Wooten and his brother Roy Wooten. Actually, his other brothers as well, Reggie, Joseph, and Rudy. And to make a long story short, Roy was playing a customized guitar at the time that had piezo sensors. They're like touch sensitive electronic devices. You tap them and they actually generate a voltage. And he was playing in a top 40 band, and he was playing drums with this instrument. He was triggering the drum samples with it, and I thought that was really cool. And I basically just approached him and said I was really into electronics and musical applications and stuff like that, and if he wanted help furthering his ideas, I was into helping him out. So we got along great. We talked a lot that summer about all kinds of different ideas and instruments. And both of them went on to play with Bela Fleck and the Flecktones. And that instrument that Roy is playing right there is a Synthax. It was a guitar synthesizer that he had modified with these piezo discs on them. And so that was a cool photo I found. And then the photo on the left is Victor Wooten from his Live in America album. I thought that's one of the coolest live album photos I've ever seen. So that's a great photo. I came home after playing at Busch Gardens, got a job in Cleveland at a company called Iotech. They don't exist anymore, but I was working there as a design engineer. We made interfaces for test and measurement equipment that are used by engineers. These were products that I worked on when I was there. The Analyzer 488, it looks sort of like a little laptop computer. It's for analyzing the communication between test and measurement equipment. And then there's photos of other devices which I worked on while I was there. So I was there for 3 years. And actually, at the time, I was playing in some bands around Cleveland. And right around that time, I got in another band, which I'll talk about. This is another photo that I threw in here that I thought was really cool. Some more photos of the Flectones. And that photo in the upper right corner is the Zendrum, and I'll be talking about that more. It's a really awesome MIDI controller, and that will come up more later on in this talk. So and then another photo of Victor on the left and Roy on the right. So at 1991, I actually got in a band in Cleveland called Odd Girl Out. They were kind of an up-and-coming band, and I joined them on bass. And we played out all around Cleveland and a couple states, and pretty much played every weekend. We did a live CD. We were on the cover of a local magazine, Cleveland Magazine. And during this time, I was pretty much, I was working as a tutor at a community college, and I was also playing in this band every weekend. And then I was also working on stuff for Roy, these MIDI controller ideas that we had talked about. So that leads us to this instrument that we built. Now, this was a joint effort with myself and the guys at the Zendrum, David Haney and Kim Daniel, the founders of Zendrum. So we put together this custom MIDI controller for Roy called the Royale. And that photo on the left is the inside of it, which has 4 circuit boards that I actually designed and wrote all the software for. And we installed those, and we made this really cool custom MIDI controller that Roy used for some compositions. And that photo on the right is me on the left and David Haney working on it. So that was kind of in the time frame of 1991 to 1995. And these are some other photos. The one on the right is another photo of the Royale. The one on the left is a smaller version of it that we also built that had about, it had half as many circuit boards. It was more portable, and Roy was able to take this on the road and use it with the Flectones. So then after the band Odd Girl Out broke up, and I got a regular engineering job again, this time with a company making industrial sensors, a company called Pepperl & Fuchs. And so these are some of the products that we worked on there. And so that was a really interesting, work experience. And then I was actually going to move down to, I was toying with the idea of moving down to work with the guys at the Zendrum, and then had a couple change of plans, and then ended up getting changing jobs working at the Health Museum of Cleveland. I was able to do work there as a exhibit designer, which was really interesting, a lot of fun. I did all the electronics for some of the exhibits there until they had some budget cuts, and they basically cut the whole exhibit staff. But these photos are some of the things that we worked on there. That photo in the upper right corner is a human heart exhibit that I did the electronics for. It basically had this sensor. You would walk up to it, kind of like a handlebar on a bike, and you would hold on to it. It would be able to register your pulse, and then it would flash the lights exactly in sync with your heartbeat, and it would also make the sound of a heartbeat, and and it would show your heart rate on a digital display. So I made one for the Health Museum, and then I actually got contacted by a museum in Kalamazoo, Michigan, and I built another copy of it for them. Then the Health Museum job ended due to budget cuts. I ended up doing some work at Invacare, which is a company that makes medical products, wheelchairs, and other devices. And one thing I was doing some testing on was a device called the Sip and Puff, which is a device you could use to steer the wheelchair with just breath, pressure, and Christopher Reeve, the actor, actually used that product to control the wheelchair that he had. So that it was interesting working on that product while I was there. That was a contract job. Eventually came to an end, and I then started working at Hickok, which is a company in Cleveland that made automotive test equipment for auto mechanics, and worked on a couple different products there, doing electronic circuit design and also writing what's called firmware, which is the code that runs inside of a lot of electronic products. So worked on a number of different things there. The thing on the far left, the yellow item, is a pressure gauge for measuring the pressure in fuel lines. The thing with the little wand in the center is for measuring spark plug voltages. And then the thing on the right is another test device just for checking different electrical components in a car. So I worked there until 2008, when the whole economy had a major downturn, and they laid off a lot of engineers there, including myself. So I went back to working at Lakeland Community College as a tutor. And I worked on a couple things of my own. I worked on some things for Zendrum. I worked on a product called the Merge Brick, which was like a power adapter for it. And I worked on the battery block, which is a battery pack for the Zendrum, so that you can play it with a wireless transmitter and basically be, running all over stage with a wireless instrument, and you can still trigger all the drum sounds. And then that photo in the lower left is a set of foot pedals that you can. It's kind of like a 1-octave keyboard that I put together, and I did a YouTube video of that. So there's a demo of that on YouTube, and that's something I actually used on gigs. And let's see, and then after that, I was able to get a job at a company making automotive gauges, and the product in the lower left is a device that shows engine RPM, and I did all the firmware for that. And sorry about that. So worked there for about a year or so. Then I got a job at a company as a manufacturing engineer, what's called a contract manufacturer, that basically builds electronic stuff for other companies. So I worked for about 4 years, kind of overseeing some production and building some test fixtures and fixing test fixtures as well, writing instructions on how products are actually put together, and then just basically overseeing production of different products. So then 2016, this was kind of cool. The photo on the left is myself and Wix Wickens, who's a keyboard player with Paul McCartney. And then my good friend Matt Traum, Matt and I got together, and Matt had connections with Wix, because Matt runs a business called Patchman Music, and he sells keyboards, MIDI controllers, devices used by horn players like sax and trumpet players to play sounds on a synth. So we put this custom MIDI breath controller device together. We got to meet Wix and give it to him, and got to see the concert as well. So that was just really cool. So some of the stuff I've worked on has gotten me into meeting some pretty well-known musicians that I would have never met otherwise. So that's kind of been a neat little side benefit. So then 2016 to 2021, I worked at a product design firm in Cleveland, Nottingham Spurk. And really, really interesting company. We basically would do all kinds of design work for other companies, and it was basically like engineering consulting. So really interesting work environment, really, really challenging, and I'm just really grateful for the opportunity that I had there. A lot of great products have come out of that company that you may not have been aware of. If you check out their website, you can see some examples of the stuff that they produce there. And then this is kind of interesting too. One of the things I worked on there on the far left this is like an example of something I worked on, but it's something you can find on Amazon, the Mohawk Permafill wood repair tool. So you can find that on Amazon. That was something I worked on. And then one thing I thought was really amazing about one of the products I did was a device called the Spin Brush, which you've probably seen in stores everywhere. And what I found amazing was the product was eventually sold to Procter & Gamble for $475 million, which is pretty amazing to me, to have an idea and then to develop it and to actually have it generate that large of a profit or sale price. So pretty amazing story there. You can read about the Spin Brush online, and really interesting story, behind how that was developed. Then, what's coming up? I'm kind of working on some things of my own for musicians. I'm tentatively calling it DeHaas Labs. That's the name I used when I made the stuff for Zendrum. So that's kind of my next thing. And then lastly, just a couple of resources, ways you can learn more about engineering. There's a lot of podcasts that I listen to. I find libraries and books to be a great resource. YouTube. The Case Western Reserve ThinkBox, I wanted to thank them because I've used a lot of their equipment there for working on stuff. If anybody watching this would want to contact me, there's my contact information. And lastly, I want to thank you for watching this presentation. That's a shot from a video of one of the bands that I play in Cleveland. My good friend Steve Jocham on the left, Tommy Rich on drums, and that is me on bass. And that's from a gig we did at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. You can find the videos on YouTube if you search for Steve Jocham Rock Hall. You can find them. And with that, I want to thank you for watching. Bye.